Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. If you are new here, click the subscribe button. My name is Kayla and I'm a birth doula and a mom of three. Let's get controversial today. And a lot of people would say that this is not controversial, but if you've ever scrolled a social media post and scrolled the comments, you would see that this is definitely controversial. I went viral for this last month. It's controversial. It's controversial. So let's talk about Lotus birth. Firstly, what is a Lotus birth? A Lotus birth is, the actual technical definition is umbilical non-severance. And that essentially just means that you don't cut the cord at all. You just let it rot off of your baby. So does that sound like a good idea? Let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk about the evidence of Lotus birth. There's really no true evidence because of the risk associated with Lotus birth. Lotus birth in and of itself is a very dangerous practice, and it has cultural ties to it, so I understand that aspect, but there's a lot of people that do it because it's the new fad. And unfortunately, when things become trendy on social media, people pick up on it and it becomes more trendy, even if they don't practice that culture, even if they're not in that culture, if they don't have cultural ties to it. And so even though, yes, it's cultural, there's a lot of people that do it just because. And so I think it's really important to talk about the actual facts of Lotus birth. Fact number one, there has been babies that have died because of Lotus birth. Lotus birth is dangerous, and I'll tell you the reason why. Lotus birth can lead to sicknesses, sepsis, and death. Sepsis is a blood infection, and it's a very serious blood infection. I'm here with my model today. This is my child's doll, but we are going to use it for this demonstration today to let you know how it can cause sepsis. So here you have a newborn baby. This is actually about the size of a newborn baby, probably a little bit bigger than a newborn baby, but you get the drift. Okay, so when you're on the inside, when a baby is on the inside, they are like this, okay? They are head down and they are coming out. And what the baby has attached to it is the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord is attached to the placenta, which is attached to the mother's uterus, and that is what is giving the baby all of its nutrients and blood and oxygen that it needs for the duration of pregnancy. Now, when you actually deliver that baby, and the baby is now she messed up her bow on her way out. But she is now outside. There is still a cord attached. As soon as the baby is born, the placenta starts to detach. That is exactly what is supposed to happen. I'm going to go into an entire different video on placentas because I think it's really freaking cool. But anyway, as soon as that baby's face hits air, there's a trigeminal nerve in their face that tells them to breathe oxygen, breathe through their lungs instead of through the umbilical cord. And so that's what it does. So once that trigeminal nerve is activated, it is no longer getting oxygen through the umbilical cord. So it no longer needs the umbilical cord for that anyway. After the baby is out, it takes about 1 to 5 minutes, really depending on the person, when the cord goes completely white and stops pulsing. This is telling me that no more nutrients are getting to the baby. All of the blood is back into the baby from the placenta. There is no more good things going to the baby, and it is good to clamp the cord. That is called delayed cord clamping, and it is actually recommended, and it's actually done routinely now because it has so many benefits to it. And really the only risk associated with delayed cord clamping is that your baby might develop jaundice, even more than they would if they didn't have that delayed cord clamping. So at that point, it is good to cut the cord. They clamp the cord on both ends and they cut right in between those clamps. Now with a Lotus birth, that is not happening. The baby has now been delivered and you wait 20-ish minutes for the placenta to be delivered. Usually you want the placenta to be delivered within 25 minutes. 25 to 30 minutes is really like the cutoff. And if it's not coming out by then there's something going on and it needs to be investigated, because you can have a retained placenta, stuff like that. So anyway, what happens with a Lotus birth is the placenta is now delivered. Now you both have placenta and baby still attached to each other. What happens now? You just leave it in room temperature. The placenta is no longer attached to a lifeline. The lifeline is the person that is pregnant. And when you are attached to a lifeline and you are a placenta, let's say, and you no longer have that lifeline, you're no longer getting blood from the person that was pregnant. No more nutrients are going to the baby. No more blood is going to the baby. It is no longer needed. So now what happens? What happens to this baby now that it is still attached to the umbilical cord and the placenta? There is a huge risk for sepsis when a baby is attached to something that is rotting. Because it no longer has that blood supply, it is a rotting organ. And here's one thing to note, that the cord will not fall off until 3 to 15 days, really depending on the baby and like how fast that cord just falls off. It really just depends. All 3 of my babies lost their cord around day 10, 11. So, just take that with a grain of salt, but 3 to 15 days is typical. Usually by about 2 weeks, their cord will have fallen off. And that is also what happens when you do delayed cord clamping. They will have a little stump. It is called an umbilical stump, and that will stay on the baby for 3 to 15 days, depending on the baby. Again, you don't give your baby a bath during that time because it wants to dry out and it wants to fall off that way. I get asked, why can I not find any good trials about Lotus birth? And the reason is because it's not ethical to hold a trial for a Lotus birth. A Lotus birth is dangerous and it can cause sepsis and does cause sepsis. There was a baby in Australia back in 2017 and another baby in 2020 that both passed away from sepsis from the placenta. And so that is one risk that you have to weigh when you are wanting to do something like a Lotus birth. Lotus birth is not the greatest thing that you can do, and unfortunately it does carry a lot of risks. So you won't find any trials about Lotus birth, and that's actually, fortunately, that's not unfortunately, because they understand the risks and the benefits of doing so. And we have found no single benefits to keeping the placenta attached to the baby until it falls off in those 3 to 15 days. And we have found no single benefits to doing so. And so they have not held a trial to figure out if that is actually true or not. Because babies have already died from doing this. And that is what I think a lot of people don't understand, is that there have been cases about Lotus birth, but not a trial about Lotus birth. Cases are when something is investigated and it comes to find out like this is what happens, and so they will do a case study on that specific instance. But a trial is where they gather a whole bunch of people and say, you were doing this, and it's just unethical to do so. So yes, Lotus birth is dangerous, and I do not personally recommend it. I'm not going to shame any single person that does this. However, you need to know both the benefits and the risks of doing so. And unfortunately, the risks just outweigh the benefits in this situation. So that is my video on lotus birth and delayed cord clamping. If you guys have any questions about delayed cord clamping or lotus birth, leave them in the comments and I will answer your guys' comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today and you learned a little bit of something that you may have not have known that was even a thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will talk to you in my next one. Bye guys.